everybody.
Hi,
Welcome to Dice Jailers. I'm Jordan,
I'm Bjorn.
and this week we're talking about those lovable, big, badasses that are fighters. But
Yes.
before we jump into the fun of this class that we both love,
Oh man, so good.
Bjorn,
It's so good.
what you been up to this week, bud?
Been doing some more rehearsals for the East Side Actors Rep that I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with. It's been fun. It's been interesting to do this melodrama, playing a. The long story short on the plot is I play a killer who it's witnessed that I murdered somebody, and the woman who witnessed it, she falls madly in love with him because she's a murder mystery writer, and so she ends up blackmailing him later in it. So yeah, it's it's
What?
it's just this wonderful heightened melodrama. Like it's not meant to be serious, but
Well, it's a melodrama that's not meant to be serious. Hold
you,
on.
hey, you've met actors. They'll take anything seriously if they can.
I mean, yeah.
It'll be friggin' comedy of errors, and they'll be trying to get into this really depressing place. Like, no, no, no. It's a farce, guys. It's okay to have fun. So yeah, it's been really cool to just do something where everyone is just having fun and not taking themselves too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, in the now times, it's important to have fun as much as
Yes,
possible.
I absolutely agree.
And also in my main campaign, which you play
Mm-hmm.
in, my players are now character level 17,
Yep.
which that's a big number
Well,
to hit. It's
17.
your
I think we're 18 now.
No, you're 17. You're 17. The reason I know you're 17 is because people just got their ninth level spells.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And I already have questions coming at me of regarding true polymorph and shape change of have we seen this? Have we seen this? Have we seen this?
We've certainly
So
seen a T-Rex, so
yep. So it'll be interesting to see what in the blazes I have to contend with as a DM.
should I just when we start playing in person again eventually yeah, I'm just gonna bring this always.
And you know what? That can be used for any number of things. It's not the T Rex I'm worried about. They're a CR8
Yeah,
creature. I'm gonna be a CR7. Regardless,
something
it's
like
not
that.
that high. I'm more worried about the CR17 things.
Oh,
That
you mean like the dragons we've seen?
yes, yes. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun when my players get really excited about stuff they can do. And you pointed out something really cool you can do
My
regarding
fire extinguisher.
yes, where you can literally throw the necklace of fireballs at the monk, and if you use your shared intelligence ability
Mhm.
as an artificer, he is incapable of failing the saving throw.
Yep. So it's
Because
just
he has evasion, he would take no damage,
yeah.
which I
So
love.
just throw the necklace plus like a little thing that's just a mini fire extinguisher just right next to him.
And just tell him, hey, don't bother rolling. You're fine.
Just no,
Goblet
you don't need to
covered,
roll. It's fine.
just covered in flame retardant chemicals. I love it. So like I've been on a bit of a creative streak with coming up with stuff for that game too, because the more stuff like that I get from people, the more thinking I do. So that's been fun.
See, there's one thing that I since we're kind of gonna go on a tangent about our other game, the
Oh
thing
yeah,
that I am very surprised that you have not thrown at us yet
yeah.
are more things with like anti magic and more than a counter spell to stop our spells. It surprises me because of how much of our entire party relies on magic.
There are multiple opportunities that had existed for you guys to run into beholders.
Mm-hmm.
Plural. Plural. In fact,
Yeah.
there was even one encounter where you were going to run into two beholders, but it's not where you guys went. And I didn't feel like just, while I am a huge supporter of, hey, if you create this thing and your players go in a different place from where that thing is, just move the thing. They won't
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm usually a big supporter of that. In this case, I just didn't want to because it made sense where it was. Whatever. You guys might still run into beholders. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a few nasty things up my bag. Don't worry.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited. I am excited for the next handful of sessions. What about you?
Oh
What,
yeah.
what are you up to?
I mean we had the big opening week
Hey, you
for
did?
the show for Vampires in the Neverwood that I had talked about a little last week
Yeah.
on this.
How long was that running for?
We've got our next show is on the 16th,
Okay.
and I believe there's another 8 performances, something like that.
Nice.
I don't have it on the top of my head because calendars are weird.
Sure.
Uh, and also because the run isn't being exactly like a normal theater run where it's just like we open and it's every weekend until
Right. Right. It's
we're
more
doing
staggered.
yeah, there's like a Wednesday, there's like sometimes there's a Wednesday show and then a Friday, but there's never a Thursday show.
There you go.
Because I would be leaving to head to the theater right now because I get to be the only person besides the director actually in the space, which is nice.
Fun.
But yeah, we had our two first nights, and they were so fun.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm going to see
with,
it at least once,
oh
at
yeah,
least maybe twice.
you're gonna want to watch it more than once.
No, I spoke with Alexei about that, and they told me watch it more than once if possible. But the one I've been instructed to watch, if I only watch one, is Realism.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one I was told I have to see.
Yes, yes, you do.
So
I'm because that one, there are a lot of things because of course it's Alexei and Brendan Mack, so
yep.
they put a lot of references to our actual existence.
Yeah.
And the realism path is the one that has like the most of them.
Nice.
And so just for you to catch all of those is going to be great.
Yeah, so I'm greatly looking forward to that. If I only see one, it'll be Realism, but I am going to try for two.
Yep. And yes, Gilson, if you're watching right now, one, you should be in class because you have class right now, and it's very important to you. But two, do not tell Bjorn in the chat the secret of those mentions that I am leaving out on purpose.
Oh no. Well, not I'm both afraid and excited, but I'm okay.
But yeah, doing that, also gearing up to possibly find a new place to move to, which will be very nice. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yep.
But yeah, it's mostly just been Vampires in Neverwood.
Sure.
And spending 24 hours printing a T-Rex on my 3D printer for no reason.
Well, I mean
not no reason, because like it's a T-Rex. I will use it.
Sure. But I mean,
just the fact that I had it set to print so very small and detailed, so it took over a day.
I mean, you think about it though, like waiting that long for something to print, that's a real battle, a real fight, if you will.
It was quite epic. I wish I had more weapons at my command.
Sure.
That I was proficient in to help me stave off that boredom.
Maybe
to fight away the boredom.
Maybe a little armor to help protect you against it. These are the segues. These are the segues. I love it.
How many of them can we do at once?
I know. We're talking about fighters, so let's get cracking.
Oh, you finally got your shirt.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a little bit. I'm hoping to get one of the full hoodies.
Nice. No, I've got both a Kraken shirt, a Kraken hoodie, and I have some Kraken socks.
Nice.
I am ready for the draft in June.
You are most definitely not Kraken lacking.
No, I am not. And if there is a way, I am going to make every effort to get myself a ticket to the very first game. I know it will not be easy.
It will not.
But I'm going to try.
Oh, boy. I pulled up my notes in front of the stream. That's my bad. It's fine.
But yeah.
They got just a quick flash of one of the fighter pages I wanted to talk about.
Fighters, though, I think it's a class that too many people shy away from.
True.
Because I think they think it's going to be overly basic and that they're not going to get a lot of fulfillment out of it. And I just don't think that's accurate.
No, it's not accurate at all, because like we talked about with the Bard, how the Bard is like the jack of all trades class.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's like being able to do a little bit of everything all the time. But as far as for fighters, for choices, I would say fighters are the jack of all trades for like choices. Like, yes, you specialize, but as a fighter, you can really specialize in just about anything. I mean, you have Eldritch Knight, you can still do magic. There's the Arcane Archer, where it's magic but not quite magic.
Right.
You've got now with Tasha's, you've got the Psi Warrior that lets you get kind of into the old days of having psionic classes.
Yep.
And there's so many different options and ways to go and ways to build that, like, you could have a full party of fighters and be missing almost nothing except someone that heals.
That's
Um,
true. And one of the other things I love about the class is if someone has never played D&D, it is honestly the class I would steer them towards, because I always say if you've never played before, play a low level one shot or a low level
mhm.
adventure of a few sessions, just so you don't have too much thrown at you. And granted, there aren't a lot of things you can do as a fighter, particularly before you get to your archetype.
Yeah,
But what you do, you're friggin' amazing at. We're talking
absolutely.
level one,
Like
you're
right off
proficient.
the bat, you're good at
Yeah.
what you do.
All weapons, all armor, shields, and
Hmm.
still at level one, you get a fighting style, meaning you get some sort of bonus to combat. And I love some of the new ones
Oh
with
yeah,
expansions in
give me
Tasha.
the brawler, baby.
I love the unarmed fighting. I like the thrown weapons. Like,
Yeah,
I think
haven't
that's a
gotten a
lot of
chance to
fun.
try that one yet, and it looks
Yeah,
fun.
but also, most people get this notion in their mind when they think fighter, they think of the knight in their heavy armor with a sword and a shield, or a big sword just waiting in there. And that's true, and
And
that's
you can do that.
awesome. And if I play a fighter, that's how I play them, because I really
Hmm.
like melee classes. But you can full on go, hey, you know what, I'm going to be an archer, I'm going to take the archery style, I'm going to have a high dex, I'm going to be nimble. Like, you can do that with the fighter. And
Hmm.
so even if you're in the same archetype, you can have two wildly different fighters within it. I mean,
Absolutely.
archetype depending. There are some of them where you're probably going to have something similar, but it doesn't have
Yeah,
to be the
but
same.
if you go something like the Battle Master, where
Sure.
you have all of those maneuvers, like yeah, no two Battle Masters even that like do the same fighting style are the same because
Exactly.
maneuvers.
And
They're
and
fighter spells.
and then the other cool thing is also at level one, you get second wind, so you have an ability to heal yourself.
Hmm.
And then
Which
when
is
you hit
very
level,
important.
yeah, then we hit level two, you get action surge.
Arguably the best thing about being a fighter.
It is like once you hit level two, at some point between short rests, you get to go, you know what? My turn's not over
Right?
because I'm going to take another action.
It's just I want to do more things. Why? Because I'm a fighter.
Because I'm a fighter, because I'm great. You get more ability score increases than any other class.
Also, yes.
So if you're like me and you like to optimize a bit, this is really a huge appeal, because I can now have an 18 or 20 in my strength or dex, whichever one I'm running.
Hmm.
It's me. It's going to be strength.
Yeah.
I can have that 20 constitution, so I can have plenty of hit points, because again, con is
It's
not a
you.
dump stat.
It is sometimes.
No. And I'm going to be in melee, so I need the hit points. But once I have those, I still have, if we're going up to high levels, there are a ton of ability score increases
Hmm.
where I can take feats. I
Yep.
can boost up other stats because, oh, this would be cool for role play, because maybe I've decided that my fighter has a really high wisdom because, oh, they're actually a lieutenant in
Hmm.
this, army of the crown,
Yeah.
and they've just learned so much stuff. Or I decide
Or
they're
they're
super charismatic.
yeah, and like going with the wisdom, you could be the like the wilderness squadron
Yeah.
of whatever like military that your character may have been in.
And also with those ability score increases, and I know we are going to get into this archetype, I'm sure, in a moment here, but what I love is I think where the Eldritch Knight so eclipses, I know we're not going to get to rogues for a while,
Hmm.
the Arcane Trickster.
Oh yeah.
um your fighter, there's a good chance you're going to want a really high strength or dex, whichever one you're running off of,
Hmm.
and you're probably going to want a pretty good con, because for the most part, if you're a fighter, you're probably one of your party's tanks, if not the tank.
Probably.
It's hard to have a class where you're trying to boost three stats, but when you get so many ability score increases like you do with the fighter, you can boost that intelligence for your Eldritch Knight
And
and
then
actually have a decent spell save.
yeah, and then you're a big fighter plus spells.
Oh, which is so good. So
And like and so like there's so much to like about the fighter class
yeah,
that it's unfortunate that people overlook it so much because
and
they don't want to get relegated to being the big dumb fighter, which
what and
also that's fun. Why
yeah,
would you
exactly,
shy away from that?
it could be a blast. And like I said, I would recommend it to most new players. I think the most important question to always ask a new player is, what do you want your character to be good at?
Absolutely.
Or, you know, give me just a very simple description of your character. Because if they say, I want to be a badass, I'll be like, let me
Oh,
introduce you to my friend, the
uh-huh.
fighter. Yeah. Like, I want to be a badass and good with weapons.
That's our new children's book, My Friend the Fighter.
Right? Yeah. So I love fighters.
It's the D&D equivalent of My Neighbor Totoro.
And, and I have never played a fighter and not had fun. I think that's one of the other things. And I've never seen anybody not have fun playing a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen people not have fun playing certain classes because maybe the adventure they're in isn't well geared towards their abilities.
Right.
Or they end up being a little dissatisfied with their build or didn't do what they think they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
With the fighter, it's not like you're confused about what your character is good at.
Yeah,
It's
it's right there in the name.
yeah. Gee, I wonder what it does. Oh yeah, it
So,
fighters.
but we've heaped all of these good things on the fighter as a class.
Yep.
And I'm curious to know if you have anything about the fighter as a class that you don't like as much.
I don't know if there's anything I don't like, although I will say there is a place where I find it being limited. This comes in game balance, but first off, one more thing I love: D10 hit die. D10 hit die.
Points.
I love hit points. When I create characters, I create fully realized characters that I love at level 1. I don't ever want my characters to die. I love them. I want them to have hit points. So I'm always happy when I have a good size hit die. We dealt with 3 D8 classes in a row. That's fine. The D8's respectable. D10 better. D12, we started that at the beginning. Barbarian.
You don't
love
need
you.
it if you don't get hit.
Well, you're going to get hit. And also, there are certain things that are just saves. But what I will say with the fighter, it is kind of talking about saves. You are not going to be proficient in intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saves.
Nope.
And while intelligence saves are rare, they will wreck your shit.
Absolutely.
Wisdom saves can get very frustrating as a fighter because all your fear effects are wisdom saves.
And some of the charms. Most of the charms are charisma saves.
Yeah.
But there are a few that are still wisdom saves, and they can really get your goat.
And I will say that is the one area where I could see somebody as a fighter getting very, very frustrated. My first ever 3.5 character was a fighter. And so that was back when it was fortitude save, will save, and I don't remember the third save.
I think it was still just intelligence.
Yeah. But I remember failing those what we would now call wisdom saves, and just really being frustrated at times. So that's the one thing where I say as a fighter, they're really easy to negate for a DM.
Yeah.
If you want to build an encounter that takes the fighter out of it, it's not hard to be like,
it's
okay.
The same way as dealing with a barbarian.
Well, but I mean, jumping back, when I talked about how much I love the Path of the Berserker,
right?
That's the big reason. You can't be frightened and you can't be charmed once you hit. I want to say it's level 6. When you're raging, you're immune to those things. And I like that, being able to just overcome it. Now, with the fighter, you do get indomitable at a certain level.
Yeah.
When you fail those saves, but all that lets you do is re-roll your save.
And if you still got a low bonus to that save,
yeah,
re-rolling it might not help that much.
Exactly. So indomitable is cool, but it's not like it goes, oh, I save. It's not a legendary resistance.
Yeah.
So that is the one area with fighters where I go, you might be frustrated. And I would say to any DMs, if you know you have a new player at your table and they are playing a fighter, maybe go a little easy on some of those wisdom, charisma saves too often, just so they don't get, too frustrated. It's okay to run a chump or two up to them to go into the fighter Cuisinart. They'll have fun. They'll be happy. But yeah, what about you? Like, where do you look at the fighter and go, man?
For me, there's one big thing about the fighter that I dislike, and that's mostly because with all of the choices that you get for a fighter, the biggest thing that annoys me about the fighter is that it wants you to specialize a lot,
It
and you
does.
have all of these options that you can do, but there isn't really a choice for like with Takar in 3.5, where we had an actual gladiator class
Yeah, yeah.
where you could kind of be that there's no option in 5th edition yet for that fighter that can really just pick up any weapon and go for it. Because like
Right.
yes, you're proficient in all of them, but like you've got your fighting style, you've also got like different things in the different archetypes that only work well with particular weapon combos.
Yeah,
And so you can't be that fighter that's like, all right, great sword for this guy, sword and board for this guy, you know, javelins for this guy, halberd for this.
right. I think
There's no weapon master.
and I think the closest you can get to that, it's not the same, but I think you could get the feel is if you took the unarmed fighting and
Mm-hmm.
then took the tavern brawler feat.
Yeah,
So you can get like the idea of just using found weapons. You're now actually getting to roll dice for
yeah.
them. It's not quite the same, but I think you can get a little closer with that.
It starts to get there,
Yeah, you can feel like the idea of anything is a weapon, but I think the only
including that
class,
goblin over there.
yeah, the only class that really goes into that anything is a weapon territory really well actually is the monk, because
Yeah,
you get to replace whatever weapon you're using with your monk punch
right.
die even at higher levels. So I hear
And
you.
that's the one thing that I dislike about fighters. It's just missing another archetype of weapons master.
Right. And how great is a class when you're like, well, the thing I don't like about it is I had to nitpick. Like,
Yeah.
it just encapsulates like, and it goes back all the way when Dungeons and Dragons was created. There were three classes.
Mm-hmm.
Already touched on one of them, and that was the cleric. We're now touching on the second one, the fighter, or at the time it was called the fighting man,
Mm-hmm.
because it was the late 70s, and the idea of women actually fighting and being competent was absent
Oh.
to role-playing games. And now we realize that Wonder Woman is straight up a fighter. Could be a paladin if you want to argue with it. I'm gonna say
Eh,
fighter just because the way she brawls. If we're talking about the Justice League, Superman's the paladin, Wonder Woman's
absolutely.
the fighter. Wonder Woman's the fighter, and she is great at it.
And Barry Allen is the bard.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. Not going to argue with you on that. I don't know if I agree, but I'm also not going to argue.
No, stats wise, it makes no sense. Um, how that character exists as a person
Sure,
absolutely makes sense.
sure. So when we're talking about these subclasses,
Mm-hmm.
what jumps out at you where you're like, this is the shit. I
So
love it.
there's one that I really, really love, and part of it is that there's a character that I played for a while that used this archetype,
Uh-huh.
and so like that makes me extra love it because I just really, really loved also that story and that character.
Yeah,
But the big thing that I loved about the archetype was that I was able to build it into the backstory so well, and like when it finally came up as a thing, it made a couple of the other players tear up a little bit, which I'm
sure.
always for.
Oh
But
yeah.
the one that I love is the Echo Knight.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Because the Echo Knight,
Yes.
you get the ability to basically pop up your shadow self and fight alongside yourself. Who
Yes.
is going to be a better ally than you?
Well, and a little thing that I love about it, when it talks about how you can move your echo, it
Mm-hmm.
specifically says in any direction, which to me says your echo is not bound by the effects of gravity.
It is not.
Think about that for your flying and hovering foes.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that you can swap spots with your echo,
Absolutely.
you can now use it to help traverse more difficult terrain. I'm with you. I love the
Mm-hmm.
Echo
The Echo
Knight.
Knight, it's so fun, and also you can because that Echo is gives you more utility than just like I can attack from two places at once.
Yep.
Because you also have like hitting at those flying enemies, which is usually such a bane of fighters.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if there's something that
absolutely.
flies, like I hope your fighter has a bow that they can kind of pretend to use, or some javelins.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And granted, your echo can only be 30 feet away from you. So if it's flying up higher than that, you
yeah,
are kind of hosed, but still it's something. It's something.
and like My personal like favorite thing about the Echo Knight is the fact that your Echo can use all of your other abilities for you. So
Yes.
like no matter what
Yes.
kind of like fighting style that you take, again with that specialization and wanting to be able to do everything, no matter which thing you pick to do, your Echo can also do it with you.
And then going along with that, like you look at the different abilities the Echo Knight gets. Okay, first off, level 3, you're an Echo Knight. Boom, you can manifest the Echo.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You also get the ability where it's a finite number of times per day.
Mm-hmm.
When you've made an attack, you can make one more extra attack from your Echo. And if you have the multiple attack ability, you decide for every attack roll, does it come from me or does it come from my Echo?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Go into the ability where you can sacrifice your Echo. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Echo Scout ability is amazing, but I'm
Yeah.
going to skip over that only because that is, I think, situational based on your campaign.
Yeah. It's
There are
you're
many
less likely to use that one, but it is kind of fun to be
yeah,
able to like, all right, I pop my consciousness into my Echo, and then your Echo can go so far away from you.
yeah, up to 1,000 feet.
Yep.
So very cool, but also situational because you're going to run into DMs that will never have things happening that far away from you that
Yeah.
you need to investigate. Depends on the campaign. But the ability to sacrifice your Echo, where it's like, oh, this attack that was going to be rolled, now they're attacking your Echo. And even if they hit it and it's destroyed, they still waste the attack,
Right.
which is, I think that's just so
It's
awesome.
it's it's one of those things that like with I think it's the grave clerics the like being able to cancel a critical hit.
Sentinel at Death's Door.
Yes. And so being able to it's almost the same kind of ability. I mean it's only for yourself, but
Yeah, but I absolutely love that of going. You know what? I'm going to do this thing for protection. And it's so cool. And then finally, when you hit your capstone ability of you can create 2 Echoes,
yeah.
which is freaking awesome when you
Cuz
think about it. Level 18, yeah,
at that point you're a fighter. You're making 1.5 million attacks a turn,
yeah, you get
and they
three
can
attacks.
all be at like different targets, or just me myself and I
Yeah,
surrounding someone.
exactly. Like you can be if your DM plays with flanking, you can give
Mm-hmm.
your own flanking bonus.
Yeah, it's also to note that like uh it doesn't say whether the rules don't say whether or not your Echo can flank with you. So that's a thing that you can talk with your DM about. Like,
Yeah.
does your DM like can only you flank with your Echo, or can all of your allies flank with your Echo? Your Echo does still count though for a rogue's sneak attack.
Yes, it does.
So
Yeah, no,
that's another like team utility thing with the Echo Knight, where like yes, I'm fighting the big bad, but while the rogue is going around critting the minions, you can just fly your Echo out alongside the rogue,
yeah,
and so
no,
then the rogue's getting all of that damage no matter what. Plus your Echo Knight's there if your rogue needs help.
I'm with you. I love the Echo Knight. If I get an opportunity to play a fighter again, I will probably play an Echo Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to try out that class. It looks like it's a lot of fun, and also it has a lot of potential for just being like when I'm a player in combat. As much as I love those martial classes, I like to play big, powerful characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a character's got a big sword or a big friggin' axe or something, those are the characters I always resonate with. I think they're so cool. It's why I like werewolves more than I like vampires because they're big, powerful, visceral. I
Mm-hmm.
dig that. But I also love with fighters the way you can, have being more than just a big idiot with a sword,
Right.
which is fine. My fighter will probably be a big idiot with a sword,
Yeah.
but there'll be a big idiot with a sword who can create these echoes that can also sacrifice the echo for a protection or
Mm-hmm.
these various things. It just adds another layer and it just makes your character that much more badass. I'm with you.
So was the Echo Knight also the subclass that you were like, "Yep, this is my one that I wanted to talk about."
No,
Oh, dope.
it's
What
not.
what is it then?
Mine comes out of, and I'll hold it up every time. The reason I hold this up whenever I come up with one of these, as cool as all these additional subclasses are, that we've gotten over time and time again, I come back to the player's handbook, which if you're new to D&D, this is all you need. This is the
Yeah.
only one you need as a player. Or borrow somebody's, or find a way to access it online.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that I love, and there's an honorable mention, and they're both out of the player's handbook. And honestly, I love all three in here, but I'm not going to talk about the Eldritch Knight in this one. The one
Fair.
I love is the Battle Master.
Yeah.
And it feels unfair to talk about the Battle Master sometimes with how much I love it.
Because the maneuvers are so cool.
Well, and here's the thing: I did not realize until recently. There's a web show I'm a big fan of called The Dungeon Dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to our fellows up in Canada. And they went through all the various classes at
Oh
once.
yeah, because they have their whole they have their whole series where they go through each class and they like rank the different archetypes.
Yeah, they go
all of
full
them.
breakdown of every
Yeah.
single subclass. And when they talked about the Battle Master, one of the things they mentioned, and I didn't realize this, most of the maneuvers work with ranged attacks as
Yes,
well.
they do. They
is
sure
why
do.
I love it. So, like, one of my favorite comic book characters is Green Arrow. But when I say I love Green Arrow, I like the sort of silly Green Arrow with the boxing glove arrow and the handcuff arrow. Like, don't give me
glove arrow.
Yeah,
That's the
don't
best
give me
thing.
don't give me this gritty edgelord Green Arrow who only used sharpened arrows and all
I
this.
mean, admittedly, played so well. Like, it's a good, like, it's very well done. It's just not the Green Arrow that we love.
Yeah, and you know, if you want your more gritty one, you know that's cool. As I have said multiple times, I am not here to yuck your yum. What you find entertaining is for you, but for me,
It's
I
a boxing
want.
glove on the end of an arrow.
Man, I love the boxing glove arrow. It is my favorite trick arrow. It's an arrow with a friggin' boxing glove on the end of it.
It's so funny.
It's so stupid. It's so funny, but I love it.
It's
But
just,
the
it's
Battle
great.
Master, you could take the archery fighting style, play a Battle Master, and you could have all these trick arrows. And I feel like there's so much role play potential for that.
Yep.
Like the tripping attack, that one, it doesn't require it to be melee. There are a few that say when you make a melee attack, but like the disarming or the tripping, those I believe both can be melee. I know the disarming is. I'm pretty sure the tripping is also.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
so, yeah.
I could just go over and look right now.
Double check. But even if that one isn't, there are so many that are melee, that can be melee or ranged. Have a blast with it. Figure out what kind of arrows you have or how you modified them, and maybe
trip doesn't need to be melee.
Just as you make an attack.
Disarm. Yeah, disarm doesn't need to be melee either.
Yeah. So you can basically be like, yeah, I shoot their sword out of their hand with my arrow. Or for the tripping, you could have like a friggin' ankle cuff arrow, or have bolas
just
attached.
Bola arrows.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool. So I love the Battle Master for all the potential it has. Plus, you get a good amount of battlefield maneuvers when you get it at level 3, and as you level up, you get even more battlefield maneuvers. It's
if incredible. You really want even more, there's, as you're a fighter and you get your 1.5 million stat boosts, you can take another feat to get another maneuver.
Just do it. Just do it.
Just all right. You just have every maneuver now. Like, all right.
which is great. And so I love the Battle Master. I think it is arguably the most powerful subclass. Like, if you just want to,
if you're going direct combat strength, absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing that can compare with it on the battlefield. There just isn't, because of how many maneuvers you get, how many times you get to use them, and what they're capable of doing. Because you can select your maneuvers to completely complement the party you're playing in.
Yes.
And that all of a sudden, the whole stereotype that we talked about earlier of the big dumb fighter, now you're the tactician.
And then you're the big not so dumb leader.
Yeah. And there was, back in 3.5, a prestige class I thought was really cool called the Warlord.
Yep. It was one of my favorites. Oh, I miss
Yeah,
it so much.
and I feel like the Battle Master is actually your closest chance to get
Mm-hmm.
near the Warlord. It's
It's
not,
it's one of the subclasses that if 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 the Cavalier was combined with the subclass that I'm gonna talk bad about, it would become a proper Cavalier for one,
sure.
and two, it would get close to that Warlord.
Yeah, and I have to take a minute to give I'm giving all the subs to the Battle Master. There is a subclass, however, also in the player's handbook that I have to give an honorable mention to.
Mm.
And part of it is because I'm really tired of people dunking on this one like it's not good. And that's the champion.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry. If someone has never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but
the
they
champion is
say,
perfect.
and they go, I want to be a badass, I'm going to go, let me introduce you to your variant human champion fighter.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Let's face it, there are very, very few ways to make it more likely you're going to get a critical. And when I say more likely, I'm talking level 3, improved critical. On a 19 or a 20, you crit. That's 10% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's absurd
Yeah,
to crit that often. Oh,
and
and
like,
by the way, you get an extra fighting style if you're the champion.
mm-hmm.
You get
and that's one
another
of the
one.
few and that's one of the few ways that getting into that weapon master, it starts to lean closer. It still
Yeah.
doesn't do it, but
No.
like, unless you were to take the relatively new feat where you can get another fighting style,
Yup, yup.
and then maybe we can start to get into that realm.
Sure.
But
But
like,
I mean, but if you want to go to the whole thing of like, I want to be this badass fighter who's super good at what they do, and no one's more badass than I am. I'm like,
mhm,
okay, cool. Well, what's your badass fighter's weapon? And they're like, I use a big friggin' sword. Awesome. So
dope.
take great weapon fighting at level 1. And
Mhm.
then when you get your additional fighting style, because you're wearing heavy armor, take the defense fighting style.
And
So
then
you
it's
get
like
that
you have a
extra
shield.
+1. Like, and now you're even that much harder to hit. So I love the champion, and I will defend the champion
The place
so
where
highly.
I think the champion shines, that it's a thing that we haven't really talked about a whole lot on
Sure.
any of the past 21 episodes, which shout out, we crossed 20, baby. um
Yeah.
is that the champion is the kind of character that if you have a friend that really wants to play but they have a very very busy rest of their life, the champion is beautiful for that, because the champion, you can come in, play the game, play your character, but you don't have to spend so much out of game time figuring out how to play your character. And
Exactly.
that's I think it's a really important thing that isn't mentioned a whole lot when talking about D&D, because all so many of the other classes and archetypes are really complicated, and you have to
Yeah.
make sure, like, okay, and then this and then this and then this, and picking spells, and okay. But with champion, it's really just, I've got my weapon and I hit extra hard and I'm here to do my job.
Well, and as someone who's playing a wizard right now, my familiarity with the game really helps. But like you said, someone with a busy schedule who doesn't really have the time to go for all the ins and outs, I
Yeah.
would steer them away from the wizard,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. I would honestly steer them away from almost all spell casting
Oh,
classes
absolutely.
where it's like,
Spells are complicated.
yeah,
Fuck.
like there's a lot to do here. Play a fighter, you're going to be awesome. Or the other thing, you and I have the benefit of being performers.
Yes.
To get into character for our D&D characters is not difficult for us.
You got that
But
right.
I've seen it where, like, I've been at my local comic shop, in the before times, playing a pickup game where you've got multiple people around the table, have been playing D&D for a decade plus, and or are performers, and you get this person who has never played before that's a little intimidated, especially in role play. And I think that's an easy thing to forget for
Mm-hmm.
people who have played a long time, that for newbies, the role play part's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not an actor, to go, oh, I'm going to perform and be this character, it's hard. So
Well,
I think the
because you
fighter
get
more,
that choice paralysis,
yeah.
where it's like,
And
what
as
do
a
you mean I can just
fighter,
do anything?
like as a fighter, you can be the strong silent type, and it's cool and
Yeah.
it works. And the minute combat begins, you are the star because
Absolutely.
you have these great abilities. Again, especially at low levels.
Again, you get in a fight, it's in the name.
Yeah, it's in the name. So we've been gushing over what's great about fighters and these great subclasses.
All right.
I want to
Let's
get into
trip attack our class. Let's do it.
what is the subclass?
Let's trip attack our boy. And the
Yeah.
one, like I mentioned it a little bit a second ago, it's the purple dragon knight.
It's the Purple Dragon
It's the
Knight. It's
purple
the worst
goddamn
subclass of the
dragon
whole
knight.
friggin' game.
Because they straight up, the purple dragon knight, they took all the cool things about from the Pathfinder where Cavalier was a full class,
Yep.
and they split it in two and gave the like leader kinds of things to the purple dragon knight,
Yeah.
and none of the other cool things
Nothing
about being
good.
a cavalier.
So the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. I want to talk about it for a second as a
Do we
book.
have to?
We do. So here's the thing. I own a copy of it, and there are some really good things in it.
There are. But
The Purple Dragon Knight's not one of them. Almost everything that's good in it is all lore. Because let's face it,
yes.
5th edition has really focused on the Sword Coast.
Yes.
Almost all the printed adventures take place there.
Yep.
Which I'm fine with. I know there are people that are really upset that
Because
more
they-
of Faerun
They
isn't
want a bigger world, and like, if you want a bigger world, make your own.
exactly. I think it's really cool that all these different printed adventures coming out, they're really easy to tie together.
Yes.
So if you have a group that finishes like a Waterdeep Dragon Heist, or a Descent into Avernus, or a Lost Mines of Fandelver, or
going
whatever.
up to Icewind Dale.
Yeah,
Because Icewind Dale's still just north of the Sword Coast.
yeah. It's just beyond the spine of the world. It's you just go north. So you have this group that doesn't want to stop playing, but they're bummed their adventure is done. You can pick up one of these other pre-written modules because maybe as a DM, maybe you're not good at writing stories.
Mhm.
Not everyone is. You can
It's not easy.
It's really hard. I'm not gonna lie. As someone who's doing it, it's hard.
It's
Like-
not easy to do. But like,
No. But you then have this whole area that's really well fleshed out. And I love the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide for being like, oh hey, here's all this lore about all these locations. But here's also the Purple Dragon Knight, which sucks.
it's why. It's the cool things about Purple Dragon Knight are all things that the Cavalier used to do when it was its own class.
Well, and here's the thing. There are
Yeah.
a couple things that the Purple Dragon Knight actually does well. Like you get some social interaction abilities
Yeah.
out of it. But here's what I'd say. If you're like, oh, but I don't want to be the big dumb fighter. I want to be a fighter who's actually got some personality and who can interact with people in town and maybe actually have some sort of persona. I go, oh, let me introduce you to my friend, the Samurai,
Or
which does.
any other fighter.
But the only reason I go to the Samurai is because the Purple Dragon Knight talks about having, it gives you one of the face skills. In
Yeah.
it.
And
Which
it
the
does give you
samurai
that like
also
knight
enhances.
knight.
Yeah.
know?
It's,
But the samurai has that and better.
yeah. I'd be like, either play a Samurai or play a Paladin.
Yeah, or just write your character's backstory with a personality and give
Yeah.
them a little bit of a charisma. Like
The Purple Dragon Knight, I hate it, and it honestly, it's just because I keep looking at it and going, so much this is bad. People
Yeah.
will go, oh, but you have this thing where you could heal multiple allies. I go, yeah, to the equivalent of your fighter level, which when you get it is 3 hit points to
Yeah.
everyone, and they have to be able to hear you. So you can't even pick up unconscious allies with it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a quality ability.
And also, like, if that's the important thing to you, play a cleric.
Yeah. Or any other class that can take healing word.
Or even like I can't remember if it's official yet or if it's still Unearthed Arcana, but there's the inspiring speech. I don't remember if that's still unearthed or
I
if
think
it's
it's still
if it's
unearthed.
official yet. But like There's a thing, inspiring speech, which is basically that ability. Ah, it's just not good, guys.
No.
It's just not good.
There is one other archetype I want to bring up in the fighter that I
Okay.
think is just bad.
Okay.
It's just bad, and it needs to go to its room and think about what it's done.
Okay.
That's the arcane archer.
You get out right now.
Nope. Because here's the thing.
The only bad thing about the arcane archer is
Yep.
that they need to bump up the number of times you can use the arcane shot. That's
This
it.
is why I hate it. You can use it 2 times. 2. And that doesn't increase with your levels, guy. It doesn't.
It does. You do get a free one once you get to high levels.
Yeah,
I know
what is
it's,
it? Level 15?
it is the downfall of that class, is that you can't
I'm-
use their cool thing as often as you should.
I'm going to tell you the 2 reasons why I hate it. Because I want to like the arcane archer. I want to. Here's my problem. When I look at it, I go, oh, I can do this cool stuff with my arrows. And then I look over at the battle master, and I can do all this cool stuff with my arrows more often.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the battle master every time. And here's the thing. If you're like, oh, I want to do all this cool stuff with my arrows, I'm going to say, you're correct in wanting a D10, but you're playing the wrong class.
No, if you're an archer, you don't need a D10. If you're an archer, con is a dump stat. You're not going to get hit.
Con is never a dump stat.
Con is absolutely a dump stat when you're an archer. You're not going to get hit.
Okay, here, you have no hit points. You get hit by a fireball or you get hit by a lightning bolt. Oh, you're now a puddle.
Those are both dex saves. You're gonna be fine.
Fine. You get hit by any one of the numerous con save spells like Blight.
You're in the back. How often are you going to get targeted by Blight?
When the caster gets tired of becoming a pincushion from your arrows. When they notice you're nimble and frail and they go...
also has no hit points. They're going to die first.
We'll test this soon. We'll test this. We're going to have a special stream where we build some stuff and I just murder your no-con people because I can.
But you won't be able to hit me because high dex.
Cool. Keep telling yourself that. But here's my other thing. So the reason I mentioned the D10, I wasn't mentioning it for the number of hit points. I was saying classes that are built off the D10, because when you're saying all this cool stuff you want to do with your arrows, don't play a ranger.
Yep.
Play like when you look at the arcane archer, if that's the one that really appeals to you, I guarantee you're going to find a ranger subclass that you like as much or more, and that you'll realize is better. And
the current arcane archer makes me miss the old style of the character class of Magus, as well as when Eldritch Knight was its own class.
Yep.
Because both of those could be a much better arcane archer than this is.
Yeah, and so I just think the arcane archer fails to do what it's trying to do, because it should be the best archery fighter subclass possible.
It should.
It's got archer in the damn name. But
it's really only it's because you can't do your arcane shot as often as you should.
Yeah. Pound for pound, I will take the battle master every time. Or hells, I'll take the champion over it.
See, the only cool thing about the arcane archer is that it's the curving shot. That is the like the saving grace for the arcane archer is the curving shot, because it's cleave with an arrow.
It is.
It's just kind of wacky and fun, but it's cleave with an arrow, and you also get even your non-magical attacks are magical at that point.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's bigger than people give it credit for.
Sure, because if you're playing a low magic campaign, you might not have magic weapons. So having ways to bypass resistance, it is huge, and I won't discount that. I will just say I think the arcane archer, it falls short.
Yeah,
and
the arcane archer is built for the kind of thing, like, especially because it has the ability of ever ready shot, where you get one free arcane shot at the start of initiative if you don't have any.
Sure.
It's built for, like, all right, and we're running in here. It's combat. It's dead. Next combat. it's dead rather than like a big long drawn out fight, which is usually where you want a fighter.
Exactly. And that's the other thing is you only get so many uses. And it's not like oh, you trigger it and you have it for a minute, like a lot of concentration spells might be.
Yeah.
You get two of them. And if you have none when combat starts, you get one.
Yeah.
So you best hope you use it at the right time. And then outside of that, you have no cool abilities. Now,
Or just hope that you take a lot of short rests as a team.
yeah. And honestly, this goes back to why I love the champion so much. No one gets to make more attack rolls than a fighter.
Nope.
Nobody. Like there are plenty of martial classes that get extra attack. The fighter gets a third attack, and then if you hit level 20, you
You
get
get a
a
fourth.
fourth attack. And if you consider the idea that and at that point, if you're a champion, you crit on an 18 through
Yep.
20.
It's like you're basically gonna crit every round at least
Yeah,
once.
the odds are very high.
Yeah.
You are going to crit often.
Especially because at that point you've got allies or magic items or some other kinds of things that give you advantage pretty often. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
even just more likely that you're gonna crit. You become a crit machine. You're the in 3.5 and in Pathfinder, you're the dancing dervish with scimitars who
yeah.
could
It's great.
get their crit range down to a 15. I
and
don't
I'll
know
say,
I don't know why that was allowed to be a thing in the game mechanics at all. And I think
just talk.
that like people just prioritizing that in past editions, I think is why there's nobody but the champion that gets to crit on something other than a nat 20
Yeah, there's a reason you can't increase your crit threat range, which I think
because
is reasonable.
you used to be able to just grab a scimitar and be an offshoot of a bard that was somehow critting on a 16 or a 15.
Yep. But I will also say part of what I love about the class of fighter so much, I don't know if there is another class in the game that is as easy and worthwhile to multi-class into.
Oh, absolutely.
13
Taking a
strength
level
or
dip or two
13.
in fighter,
Sure. You have
baby.
13 strength or 13 dex, one or the other. And if you look at just level one, your fighting style, proficiency in all weapons and armor, and second wind. That's friggin'
Yep.
huge.
You
And
take a 2 level dip, you get action surge.
yeah,
Action surge.
and honestly, there are very few classes that I would say, oh, take more than that, just because of what you lose in your own uh, leveling tree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it matters the campaign you're playing in. I always like to say, talk to your DM, find out if they know what level about you're likely to end the campaign
Mm-hmm.
at,
Like
because
that's one of the biggest reasons why like my character in our game,
yep,
who multiclassed from fighter to artificer, and the reason why I went so hard for that, not just because storyline it made sense,
made perfect sense.
was because I know that we're going to level 20, and getting to level 10 in fighter and in artificer, you get to do a lot of fun stuff.
Right. And honestly, there are some classes that if I know a campaign is going to say level 13 or 14, I might multi-class in. But if I know it's going to 20, I'm not going to multi-class in because the capstone ability is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like do I think the fighter capstone ability is so good? 3 attacks versus 4 attacks?
I mean, it's cool.
It's cool, but it's not redonkulous.
Yeah.
You've already got 3 attacks. Like one of the only classes where I'd say don't give up that capstone unless you're getting something amazing is the barbarian. You get +4 strength, +4 con.
I would say also wizard.
Wizard's pretty good.
I wouldn't give up levels of wizard.
No,
Most often.
well, I would say the only way I would give is wizard is I would take a level of fighter if I was a blade singer.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. If you're
Because
playing a blade singer, you can grab an extra a level dump in fighter and you won't miss it.
No.
But
there
for most
are
of them,
no.
keep your wizard levels wizard.
Cleric, I would also say don't multi-class if you can help it, because at level 20, divine intervention just succeeds,
Mm-hmm.
which
Although
that's big.
Cleric Druid is fun.
It can be.
Cleric
It can.
Druid can be very, very fun.
But yeah,
Ooh, we should do an episode after we get through all the classes. We should do an episode on our like favorite multi-classes. I think that'd
okay.
be fun.
Yeah, you know what? Mine's gonna make people roll their eyes because it's so typical. But I love it. But we'll worry about that when we get there. But
we can talk about more multi-classes than just our favorites.
Oh no, we will. But yeah, the fighter it's good. It's never going to disappoint you, and I don't know that it's possible to not have fun unless you're playing in a campaign with no combat. In which case, I would say don't play a fighter because
you're not going to use any of your fun stuff that often.
Exactly.
But also, like, if you're playing again with the sirens.
Yep.
But
you're letting us know we're almost out of time.
If you're playing a campaign with not a whole lot of combat, probably stay away from the fighter. Although that's the one time that the Purple Dragon Knight isn't awful.
But in that case, just play the samurai. It does
also,
the same thing better.
But what if you want dragon in your name without being connected to a dragon at all?
Then I'm Dragon McDragon the samurai.
I think that's personally my favorite, just like terrible thing about the Purple Dragon Knight is that you're called a Dragon Knight. Where is your goddamn dragon?
You know what? It does say in there, unless you're from like a certain region in the Sword Coast, it's known as the Banneret.
Yay!
I'm just saying you don't have to have the dragon in the name, but literally,
but still,
the name Purple Dragon Knight is the only redeeming thing about that subclass. Is the name is cool.
I am a Purple Dragon Knight. What does that mean?
Oh, that's awesome! You're like, it actually sucks.
Yeah, no, it's not great. It just means I can talk to a crowd.
Yeah, I think that's part of.
I took a level dip in Bard.
That's your only good level. I think that's part of why I really dislike the Purple Dragon Knight so much. Is I love the name, and when I first saw the name, I went, "Oh, this is gonna be the coolest thing."
You remember the Prestige class from 3.5 that was literally a dragon rider.
Yep.
And like you could only take it if in your campaign you befriended a dragon, but then you got all of these things that the Cavalier got with their mount, but specifically with a dragon.
Yes.
And and that's what I want from this because there's dragon in the name. It's got dragon in the name. There should be a dragon.
It just fails.
That's why if you play a D&D campaign and you don't put a dragon in it, rude.
Yeah, it's in the name, guys. Dungeons and Dragons.
There should be at least one of each in every campaign.
There really should. Have them exist. And if you can have a dragon in a dungeon, that's great. Doesn't always work so well because you got to have the space for it. They're kind of big.
Yeah, but also name that dragon Nicki Minaj because she is a dungeon dragon.
There you go. You go. The things you learn here
it's
on
the weirdest song reference that I think we've made yet.
But again, when looking to build your fighter, you need to go no further than here.
You really don't.
You're
Battlemaster's super fun.
Battlemaster is super fun. The champion is great. We didn't really touch on it a ton, but the Eldritch Knight is frigging awesome.
The Eldritch Knight is cool. Like I knew we had the potential to go over time on this one.
Yeah.
Because of one, how many archetypes that the fighter has.
We didn't even get to the Rune Knight.
The Rune Knight, who's super dope. The Psy Warrior, who's basically a Jedi.
Yeah, like no matter what you want your character to be, you can probably find a fighter that works for it. Rune Knight, we're like, oh, hey, I'm bigger than big, and I got these badass Norse runes, and I'm going to pummel you because, like, it combines, like, giants and Norse mythology, and
it's right up your alley, bud.
Oh, man. I love the Rune Knight. That's another one I really want to
every NPC in our campaign 2 is going to be a Rune Knight, aren't they?
No, because I'll just be mad that I can't play them. You'll probably fight against one or two,
fair enough,
just so I can roll them up. No,
I love how we mentioned campaign 2. We are going to put campaign 2 on this channel. It's going to happen. There will be a full D&D campaign on this channel eventually. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Well, we also have to finish campaign 1.
Also, yes. Like,
Yeah.
we're level 17, so, like, 3 more levels, y'all.
Yep. And then when that's done, I'm going to need a little bit of break because
Yep.
emotions, because I'll have been running a game for about 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of feelings with that.
And in the in-between, I'll run a little thing.
Yeah, hell yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, there'll also be some other one shots coming up too, because
Yep.
I found some stuff I want to run.
Because I know, I don't know about you, Bjorn, but I would like to try to put together a one-shot a month going forward.
I'd be beautiful.
I don't know if we'll
Beautiful.
be able to do it yet, because of how short a month February is.
Yeah.
But like maybe we start them in March. I don't know. We'll see.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, we're getting to our time. Thank you for all. Thank you for watching us just vomit love on the class of fighters.
It's so good. If you've never played a fighter, I recommend it. I recommend it.
It's such a good class.
Find a one shot that is levels either level 3 or level 5. I only say level 5 because you get your extra attack,
Mm-hmm.
and level 3 is your archetype. And just run a fighter and just watch how much fun you can have.
Even if you're a monster like a couple friends of mine and you've only played spellcaster classes because you like casting spells, like just do yourself a favor. Play a fighter, play
They're
a
fun.
battle master, because battle
fun.
masters have fighter spells.
Yep. And honestly, if ever you just want to be the ultimate badass on a battlefield, play a champion. And if you have a friend who's never played D&D, but is kind of interested, and if they would enjoy a martial class,
Mm-hmm.
introduce them to the champion.
Yep. Give him a champion.
You take more fighter and put it in your fighter.
Yep. Yo, dog,
really
heard you like fighters.
Yeah.
All right, we should end this stream before we just keep getting on and on these rambling reference trains.
Yep. And we should. I have to go pick up some tacos.
Yep, I've got to. Well, I'm not actually going to do anything.
Right.
My time is free. Because I ate before the stream.
I did not.
You really should. Eating's good for you.
We'll find out.
Thank you for sticking with us. Be good to yourselves.
Please.
You eat, drink water, take care of yourselves. And as we always say, Bjorn,
do something nice for yourself this weekend.
We'll see you next time as I fumble over to get to the end of show tab.
Whatever works, right?